Welcome back to the deep dive. We're back in the trenches today with Jafar Humayun's Designing Futures. And I have to say, if you've been following this series with us, you know we aren't here to just review the latest tech product or look at stock prices.
Right, yeah.
This series is heavy, it's structural, it feels less like reading a normal business book and more like, I don't know, looking at the blueprints of a building that's currently shaking.
Yeah, it really is. It's an architectural critique of where the economy is going. And before we even touch today's specific topic, we have to re-ground ourselves in Jafar's specific framing for this project. Because without it, what we're about to discuss sounds like science fiction, or just pure anxiety.
Right, the whole solution space concept. We need to get that clearer than ever today for anyone listening.
Exactly. He writes, and I'm quoting here, "Designing futures is not a solutions manual, it's a narrowing of the field. This series explores which futures remain structurally viable once trade-offs, incentives, and limits are taken seriously."
Which I love, because it just removes that whole hype filter. We aren't predicting what will happen, we're looking at what can happen given the actual physics of the economy.
It's like gravity.
Right, you can't legislate it away. And today we are looking at episode 7.
Jobs pointed to global bidding market.
Yeah, this is the one. This is the part that challenges the thing most of us spend the majority of our waking lives doing. The job. And I don't mean work. I mean the construct.
The title, the monthly salary.
The 9-to-5 container. Exactly. The premise here is that the job isn't a fundamental law of nature. It's actually a temporary economic hack that's about 100 years old.
And that hack is expiring. That's the core argument here. We tend to assume that employment is the default state of civilization.
Right.
But for most of history, you were a farmer, a craftsman, a mercenary. You were paid for output. The job where you are paid for your time and your presence inside a firm, that's an invention of the Industrial Revolution.
And Jafar argues it was invented to solve a very specific problem.
Coordination.
And this is where the AI angle comes in. Because if AI solves the coordination problem, the structure we built to handle coordination, the corporation as we know it, might just evaporate, or at least liquefy.
Liquefy is the perfect word. We are moving from solid-state companies to liquid organizations.
But before we freak everyone out, because this sounds like mass unemployment at first glance, we should clarify the tone here. Jafar isn't painting a doomsday scenario, but he's also not selling a digital nomad utopia either, is he?
No, and that's really important. This isn't about everyone sitting on a beach with a laptop. This is a cold, hard look at transactional friction. It's an analysis of why companies hold together in the first place and why that glue is thinning out.
So let's get technical for a second. To understand why the job is dissolving, we have to understand why it was born. And that takes us back to 1937 and Ronald Coase.
The grandfather of the theory of the firm.
Right. So Coase had this basic question. If free markets are so efficient, if the invisible hand is so great at setting prices, why do companies exist at all?
Why isn't the economy just one giant, chaotic bazaar of individuals trading directly?
Yeah, exactly. Why isn't the guy on the Ford assembly line an independent contractor bidding to screw in the next bolt?
It's a great question. And Coase's answer was transaction costs.
The cost of the hassle.
Essentially, yes. Imagine if Ford had to wake up every morning, find 5,000 workers, negotiate 5,000 individual contracts, check 5,000 reputations, and ensure all those people actually showed up.
That sounds impossible.
It is. The friction, the market coordination is incredibly expensive. It costs way more to organize the market than it does to just hire people permanently.
So the firm is essentially a shelter from the market friction. You bring people inside the walls, you pay them a salary, which is basically just a retainer fee for their availability, and you tell them what to do. You suppress the market mechanism inside the company to save time.
That is the Coasean ceiling.
Yep.
Firms grow until the cost of managing people internally becomes higher than the cost of going out to the market. But, and here is the twist, the Coasean inversion AI attacks that specific friction.
This is the key insight. AI isn't just automating the task itself. It's automating the management of the task.
Think about the components of that friction. You've got search, reputation, monitoring, integration. In 1937, finding a specialist took weeks. Today, with AI-driven matching, search is algorithmic and instant.
And reputation.
Reputation used to be word of mouth. I know a guy who knows a guy. Now reputation is data-driven. It's your verified project outcomes, your commit history. It's instant and trustless.
So if I can find the perfect person instantly, verify their skills instantly, and use AI workflows to integrate their work instantly.
Then why are you paying them a full-time salary to sit in your office for a year?
Wow.
The economic advantage of the walled garden? The firm collapses. If the cost of organizing the open market drops to near zero, the cohesion floor falls out.
And that leads us to this concept of the liquid organization. Paint that picture for me. If a company isn't a building full of employees, what is it?
It becomes a strategic core surrounded by a cloud. The firm transforms. It doesn't disappear, but it changes shape entirely. You have a very small team, maybe the C-suite, and the keepers of the culture, who hold the long-term vision. They are the solid core.
You hear the rest?
The rest is a dynamic, fluid outer layer of specialized contributors who are engaged only when value is actually created. They plug in, execute, and unplug.
See, this is where it feels different from the current gig economy. The gig economy today feels like it's mostly for low-leverage tasks, driving a car, delivering food, but Jafar is talking about high-leverage roles here.
That's the critical distinction. We are talking about the industrial model versus the AI model. The industrial model was optimized for throughput. You needed people physically present 9 to 5 because the machinery, whether it was a loom or a stack of invoices, needed constant tending.
It was all about continuous presence.
Exactly. Repetition.
But AI handles repetition.
AI handles the documentation, the scheduling, the basic coding scaffolding, the data analysis. The continuous execution is increasingly automated. So what is left for the human?
Judgment.
Episodic scarcity. That's the term from the source. The human contribution shifts from continuous labor to episodic judgment. What remains scarce is framing the problem, defining the constraints, making an irreversible decision, or accepting accountability for a risk.
The source material used the example of the risk auditor, which I thought was brilliant. It really grounded this whole theory for me.
It's the perfect illustration of the operational tax. Let's say you're a bank. In the old model, you hire a senior risk auditor. You pay them $200,000 a year. They come in every day. But be honest, how many hours a week are they actually using that 20 years of experience to make a critical go or no-go decision?
Maybe 3 hours. The rest is meetings, emails, reading reports that an AI could just summarize anyway. It's basically waiting.
Right. So in the old model, you pay for 40 hours to get those 3 hours of actual value. In the liquid organization, that 37 hours of downtime is viewed as an operational tax. It's waste. It's friction.
So in the new model,
In the new model, the AI monitors the compliance data 24/7. When a red flag appears, a true anomaly, the system signals that it needs human judgment. It bids for the auditor. The auditor plugs in, spends 3 hours applying high-level judgment, resolves the issue, gets paid a premium for that specific outcome, and leaves.
outcome-based assembly. You aren't buying their time, you're buying the unlock.
Exactly. We are moving from paying for availability, leasing your life, basically, to paying for bottleneck resolution.
Okay, I get the efficiency argument for the company. It's incredibly efficient. But as a listener, I'm thinking, this sounds exhausting. If I'm not getting a salary, am I just constantly hunting for my next meal? Do I have to bid for every hour of work I do?
That is the massive disruption in value allocation. And Jafar doesn't shy away from this. It sounds like a nightmare if you view it through the lens of a traditional job. But he suggests a bifurcation of labor.
A split.
Yes. It's not that everyone becomes a mercenary. The strategic core, the people holding the context and the relationships, they stay salaried. In fact, they might be paid even more because their ability to maintain the soul of the project is critical. They are the memory banks.
But the specialists?
The high-trust judgment roles. The architects, the specialized designers, the fixers, they move toward retainers or episodic engagement. And here is the counterintuitive part. They might earn more while working less.
Because they aren't selling time, they are selling impact.
Correct. If your judgment unlocks a $10 million bottleneck for a company and it takes you 2 hours, you shouldn't be paid an hourly rate. You'd be paid a percentage of the value you unlocked. You might make a month's salary in an afternoon, provided you are actually that good.
That's a winner-takes-all dynamic, though, isn't it? If you're the best, you can service 10 companies at once. If you're mediocre...
You have a problem. The buffer of the average employee hiding in a large department disappears. Transparency cuts both ways. The market becomes ruthless about quality because the friction hiding mediocrity is just gone.
Let's pivot to the managers for a second, because if I'm a middle manager today, my job is basically supervising time and optimizing headcount. I make sure people are at their desks. If the people aren't there, what am I managing?
This is where we get into leadership as systemic assembly. If the job dissolves, the manager must evolve. You can't be a hall monitor for adults anymore.
So what is the new mandate? It sounds like the role gets harder, not easier.
Much harder. Systemic orchestration. Leaders need to design what the book calls modular decision boundaries.
That sounds a bit like jargon. Break that down for us.
Okay, think about a movie set. A director brings in a cinematographer, a stunt coordinator, and a sound engineer. They've never worked together, but they can start working immediately. Why?
Because the roles are standardized. The sound guy knows exactly where his job starts and ends. He knows the interface.
Exactly. The interface is clear. The director doesn't need to micromanage how the sound guy tapes the mic. They just need to manage the output. Corporate leaders will need to learn this. How do I define a problem so clearly that I can plug a stranger in, have them solve it, and unplug them without breaking the code base or the culture?
That requires a level of clarity most managers just don't have right now. Most managers figure it out as they go.
And that won't work in a liquid organization.
Yeah.
You need precise problem definition. You have to decide exactly where human override is mandatory and design the workflow around that specific touch point.
So the competitive advantage of a company isn't we have the most employees.
No. Success is no longer about the size of the payroll. It is about assembly quality. Who can assemble the right expertise the fastest and the most responsibly to solve a unique problem?
It's the Hollywood model applied to everything. Software, law, finance. You assemble the crew, shoot the movie, and disperse.
And that brings us to the risks. Because while Hollywood makes great movies, it's a notoriously unstable place to work.
That was my next question. We have to do a tone check here. The system sounds hyper-efficient, but it also sounds incredibly fragile. What are the structural risks?
The source material identifies 3 big systemic signals of risk. And again, Jafar frames these as governance challenges, not just tech failures. The first is obviously income volatility. Our entire financial system, mortgages, rent, credit scores, is built on the assumption of a steady, identical paycheck hitting your account every 2 weeks.
Banks hate lumpy income. I mean, try getting a mortgage as a freelancer today. It's a complete nightmare.
Exactly. If the labor market moves to this episodic model, specifically for that outer layer of workers, the financial infrastructure is completely outdated. We would need financial products that smooth out that volatility, effectively paying yourself a salary from your own fluctuating revenue.
What's the second risk?
Institutional memory. If everyone is a mercenary popping in for 3 hours to fix a problem, who remembers why we built the product this way 5 years ago? Who remembers that we tried that marketing strategy in 2024 and it failed?
A liquid organization risks losing its memory. It becomes efficient, but amnesiac. It solves the problem in front of it, but forgets the context entirely.
And that leads to a loss of cultural continuity. It's hard to have company spirit when 80% of your workforce is temporary. You lose the shared language.
And the third risk?
The safety net. This is the big governance challenge. In many parts of the world, specifically the U.S., social insurance, healthcare, retirement contributions is directly tied to the job. The employer is the delivery mechanism for social safety.
If the employer becomes a liquid platform, they aren't going to want to carry that burden.
Precisely. If you are only engaged for 3 hours, the company isn't paying for your dental plan. This creates a massive gap. The tech works. The AI can coordinate the labor. The social structure is what lags behind. We are building 21st century organizations on 20th century social infrastructure.
There's also a psychological component that stood out to me. Identity.
Oh, absolutely. This is the soft structural risk, but it's huge.
For a century, the first question we ask at a party is, what do you do? And the answer is usually, I am a job title at company. It tells people your status, your income bracket, your tribe.
It's an anchor. It stabilizes your sense of self.
If you don't hold a title, but instead you bid on specific problems across 10 different companies, who are you?
You are your output. You are your portfolio.
Yeah.
That is a much more fragile identity for a lot of people. It requires a level of self-definition that the job used to provide for free. You have to build your own professional narrative because no HR department is going to give you a ladder to climb.
It feels like we are standing on the edge of a very different world, a world where time is no longer the main constraint.
That's the summary gradient. This transition is happening because output is scaling faster than labor hours. We are reframing the job, not as a permanent state of being, but as a historical unit that emerged under specific conditions of high friction. AI is lubricating that friction, so the solution is changing.
It's what he calls the gradient of reconfiguration.
Yes. Society has to decide how to protect and price contribution when time on the clock simply doesn't correlate with value anymore.
Despite the risks, there is something optimistic about it. It forces you to ask, what am I actually good at? Not what can I fill 8 hours with, but where is my actual leverage?
It concentrates human contribution. It takes those 40 hours of work, the meetings, the commuting, the busy work, and distills them down to the 3 hours of critical judgment that actually matter.
Which makes those 3 hours very valuable. But, and this is the haunting part, it leaves a lot of open space in the rest of the week.
And that leads us to the closing thought for this deep dive. It's a question from the book that I think every listener needs to really sit with. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary.
Lay it on us.
If the economy stops paying for your time and starts paying only for your judgment, are you prepared for the silence between those moments?
Prepared for the silence that hits deep when the busy work is gone and it's just you and your ability to decide, can you handle the quiet?
It changes how you view your own value. Are you valuable because you are busy? Or are you valuable because you are capable?
Well, on that existential note, we are going to wrap up this deep dive into the global bidding market, but don't worry, we aren't leaving you in the silence just yet.
No, we aren't. Next up is episode 8, and it's the perfect follow-up to this silence. It's titled, Creativity Requires Engineered Boredom.
We're going to discuss why the AI era demands cognitive expansion intervals. Essentially, why being bored might be your most competitive asset in this new world.
You have to reclaim your attention before you can sell your judgment.
I love that. Stay tuned. Stay curious.
Stay systemic.